three former England captains to debate, well, quite a few issues really surrounding Ben Stokes. Ath, I'll start with you. That's so sad.
It is. It's no surprise. We were there at Old Trafford the other night, and Ben Stokes is a cricketer with a pretty high pain threshold, and to see him go down as he went down on completing that quick single and then having to be helped off the field and stretch it up to the dressing rooms, you felt that was his season done, really. Confirmation has come through today, so desperate news for him, bad news for the England team, because if there's one cricketer you don't want that to happen to, it's him. He's the captain, he's the leader, he's the man who's really redefined what this England team is all about in the last 2 years or so, and this season has got himself back to being the genuine all-round cricketer that we know he can be, because he's got himself fit, he's got over that knee operation, and there are no other cricketers like that within the England game. I mean, there are all-rounders, but none of his calibre. So if there's one cricketer that is the hardest to replace in a team, it is him, really. They've confirmed that Ollie Pope will captain. They've confirmed that there'll be no additions to the squad, which is an interesting talking point, because they could have brought somebody like, I don't know, Sam Curran in, or Craig Overton, although he's had a hamstring niggle as well. But in the end, they've said, we'll stick with what they've got. So their option is to play the extra batter, Jordan Cox, or bring in an extra seamer and go with a slightly longer tail.
Now, some of England's players haven't taken part in the 100. Should Ben Stokes have played in the 100?
Well, injuries happen in any sport, professional sport. It could have been a blast game, he could have got injured. It could be around the county championship games, he could have got injured. I don't think the format has got him injured. I think the game, like I said to you earlier, there are just too many formats of the game. There's too much pressure on everyone concerned with the game, whether it be ground staff, umpires, players, everyone wanting their piece of the pie. County members wanting 50 over cricket, county members wanting county championship cricket, rightly. Sky, BBC, ECB wanting the 100 format as well. People of a certain age who love historically their cricket wanting test match cricket. In the end, when everyone wants a piece of the pie, something has to give. And, you know, Rob Key has to sit there and he'll be under pressure. We hear James Vince at the toss talk about Jofra. We turn up, we're hugely disappointed Jofra's not playing. James Vince says, nothing to do with us. ECB have pulled him out. Here's a bloke with long-term history of injuries. You've got to look after your cricketers. Everyone wants them. Everyone wants Ben Stokes to play in every format. And a person who historically gets injured has got injured again. So it's a consequence of having blast, 100, 50 over Metro Cup, county championship, test cricket in a county calendar, and a calendar that's only that finite, and in the end someone's got to give. Why are pitches slightly poorer this year? Pitches are tired. So, you know, everyone is paying the price of too much cricket, and AF has written about it for a number of years, about the schedule, and no one really understands the schedule. It's all over the place. So that's my opinion on it. He could have got injured anywhere, but it is a consequence of the amount of cricket that's been played, not just here, but worldwide. So we don't get the best. When we put up in the very first 100 game the list of overseas pros coming over, it wasn't overly impressive. Whereas if you put it in the women's game, it was very impressive, because a women's game is about 5 years behind, where they are just about got the balance right, that your best players are playing just about the right amount. But in the men's game, I think it's reflected in this tournament. You haven't got the best players, there's niggles, and you're going to have to look after and rotate cricketers.
We'll get back to that discussion in just a moment, but let's just show you the squad, because these are options available. We can confirm, I think as others did a minute ago, that Ollie Pope will captain the side. They aren't going to call up anyone to replace Ben Stokes, but that is what their options are available in terms of picking a final 11.
Well, they'd already had an injury, hadn't they? Zach Crawley had broken his finger. So Dan Lawrence, who was the spare batter, has been told that he's going to open. And that's why Jordan Cox was brought in. A young, aggressive batter, wicket keeps as well, but hasn't much this year. Come from Kent to Essex. Fits the kind of Bazball mould because he's a real dasher. He was expected to be the spare batter. And now their choice is really whether to play him at 6 and just bring him in and therefore change the balance of the side, because he doesn't bowl, obviously, so you'd have a 4-man attack there, or whether to bring in the extra seamer like Ollie Stone, which means you've got Jamie Smith one up at 6, Wokes at 7, and a slightly longer tail. I guess they'll look at conditions and take a view nearer the time, but that's their option, having decided not to bring an extra player in.
Should they have brought an extra player in, Morgs?
I think, reflecting on how McCullum and Stokes and decision makers were around that group have worked, everything from the time that they've come in the door, whether it's backroom staff, selectors, having people in the changing room, they have cut and are at a minimum. The reason behind that, to start with, was the fact that they want to reiterate a strong, positive, aggressive message, and never for it to be doubted or questioned or second-guessed at any stage. I think that's why they haven't added anybody to the rest of the squad. It can be a hindrance having a big squad in such a short test match series as well. Even if I don't know if they've announced it for 1, 2 or 3, but you can always add people. I mean, it's not like we live in Australia where you have to take a 4-hour plane journey from one side of the country to the other. You jump in your car here, and unless you live in Durham, it's about 3 hours, 4 hours for anybody to get there. So for me, that's probably the reason that they haven't. It adds clarity, it gives more direction, and it probably gives you an indication whether you're playing or not. I don't think this is the type of team that will wait until the day before to decide whether they're going with the extra bowler or the extra batter.
Interesting to get 3 England captains' views of Ollie Pope and how he might go. I mean, it would be a great moment for him personally to captain England. What do you see as his leadership qualities?
Well, I think he's learnt from some very good captains. I think that helps. I mean, when I first started, I had Keith Fletcher, Graham Gooch, Michael Atherton, Alex Stewart. You learn different things from all these people. And I think that continuity will be good from Ollie Pope. You're not going to suddenly have Ollie Pope come in and be a bit timid and change the plans or whatever. The continuity that he mentions, the messaging will be absolutely. Ollie Pope won't change any of that. He obviously, I don't think it comes as natural to him as it does for Ben Stokes. Ben Stokes actually epitomises what he talks about. So Morgs often talks about it in white ball cricket. If you're going to send a message, you have to do that message yourself. I think Stokes does that better than Ollie Pope. I still see Ollie as a bit meek, a bit of a worrier, a bit of a fretter. You can see that in his batting. So he has to bluff it a little bit. Stokes does not bluff it. But he's been brought up in the school of Stokes and McCullum, so he will just continue the exact form of messaging. He won't be changing a lot.
Morgs, I'll come to you now, because when you were captain, you didn't always play. Now, not because of injury, but you're just happy to step aside. When you did that, and say whoever took over the captaincy, Joss, it might be Moeen Ali, did you feel like you had to step away and give them a chance to breathe and do it their way, or were you in there? And the point of my question is, does Ben Stokes just walk away, move away, and let Ollie Pope do it his way, or will he be in there saying, perhaps try this, perhaps try that?
No, I think Ben will be very similarly aligned to me. I stood back, took the drinks. I was there for support, in which I think Brendan McCullum will do the same for Ollie Pope. And like the timing of this doesn't come at a bad time. It's been about 2 years now, and Ben and Brendan have really nailed a template and a formula in how they want to go about their business, particularly when their backs are against the wall, and each and every player already has that clarity. So I'd imagine Ollie Pope will be encouraged to make big contributions in the final say of the 11 that takes the field, but also in whether you should bat a ball, and the ring changes throughout the course of the 5 days. And having sat back and watched Ben is the type of test match captain that doesn't let the game settle for any period. He will make a left field call here or there, particularly with young players coming through. He'll stick with them longer than any other captain that I've sat back and watched, and instill that trust that very few captains have. He also will put them in a lot of losing positions with a consequence of winning. Very few captains early on in their career will do that, but I would imagine the likes of Brendan and others in the changing room will reiterate what the team is about and help Ollie along.
I think it's very different when you're just coming in as a stand-in. If you remember, that Ben Stokes' first game as captain was as a stand-in for Joe Root, wasn't it? Where was that? At Southampton, against West Indies. And you didn't see Ben Stokes come in that game and kind of instill Bazball in the same way that once he got the job permanently, you feel then it's your job and it's your team, and you absolutely put your own stamp on it. But if you're only in for 2 or 3 games, as we expect this to be for Ollie Pope, you can't imagine that he's going to really try and change what's already been a successful dynamic in any case for Ben Stokes, the way that he's led the team. So I think it is different when you're just in there as a stand-in for a game or two, as opposed to when you feel you've got the job permanently and you can say, right, this is my team now, this is what I'll do. So I imagine it'll just be, more of the same, really, without having Stokes in there as a player, which is a big miss.
What advice can we give then? 3 England captains. I mean, Nass made a really good point. Strong views on where the game's heading, whether that's got relevance to Ben Stokes' injury here. But what about this format? I mean, we're playing too much cricket. I know it's an oft-talked about subject. What's got to go at? I mean, what do we?
What's got to go?
Lovely. I can't wait to hear the answer. Actually.
Well, I mean, it is it's a long discussion, this, because...
Well, it is raining.
Well, yeah, all right. Where do you start? Because you've got, 4 formats in England, 3 formats worldwide, ICC events every year now, a 50-over World Cup, a T20 World Cup, and a World Test Championship, with bilateral cricket on top. So the international calendar is extremely crammed. And then any break you get, you've got a franchise tournament popping up. I don't know how many franchise tournaments there are now, but the world, the FICA, or it's not called FICA now, but the world, are you president of that?
No,
or
that's
something?
the PCA.
Okay. But they now put on their website a list of franchise tournaments. I mean, it's an endless list. I think there are about 9 in America alone. So, that's being crammed in. Players, therefore, have got huge opportunities. There's a lot of upside to this, in the sense that when we played, players didn't really have money and they didn't have power, and now players have got both. They're playing for a lot of money, a lot of options, and they've got all the power as well. So things have shifted dramatically. My big concern right from the start of the IPL in 2008 was that if you only let the market dictate the game and you don't regulate the market, then there's trouble. Because what will happen is that test match cricket, long form cricket, red ball first class cricket, which is not the commercially the most attractive form of the game in a lot of countries, it is here in England, but not in a lot of countries, that is going to come under increasing pressure, and that is what is happening more and more. So I think the administrators have got to get a grip of the game and try and regulate the game, provide some windows for international cricket and some windows for franchise cricket, and try and bring some breathing space and some order. But my own personal view is it's very late in the day. These conversations should have been happening 10, 15 years ago, when it was obvious what direction the game was going in, and I feel it's kind of almost beyond that now, and it's very difficult. MCC had a thing called Cricket Connects earlier in the season, where they tried to get some influential people within the game to discuss these matters. But the game is a long way down the road now, of where the market is determining and dictating things, and it's difficult.
I guess in a way it's a nice problem to have, because if people didn't love the game and didn't see the growth in the game, there wouldn't be so many formats. You're not trying to create a new format or a new market or grow the game around the world if you don't think it's actually working. TV companies wouldn't want it if it was an absolutely rubbish game or whatever. So the fact that people want more and more cricket on their TV, more and more cricket around, is a good sign that people are loving the game and enjoying the game. But everything I said earlier holds true. The issue is, when does it become at a breaking point? And I think we're getting close to that now. It becomes quantity and not quality. And I think there's a lot of cricket, and sometimes it's just like wallpaper. It's just another game of cricket, when in fact you should be made to feel like you want something special. Wait for a game of cricket. Nowadays, every other day, there's just another game of cricket going on somewhere in the world.
I mean, you've been a beneficiary of all this cricket, travel around the world, making lots of money, having a great lifestyle out of it. How do you think the players would view a discussion
more
like
money
this?
than those 3 put together.
I know, yeah.
The Lord of Clapham.
That, eh? And he still doesn't buy a drink.
Well, that's a lie to start with. There's huge upside, like Nass and Ath have alluded to, and the bit for me that you can only control as a player, and it probably rings back to what Ben Stokes has done. You remember, he's a champion cricketer, a champion all-rounder. who missed the T20 World Cup in the West Indies and the USA to focus on getting back to a full all-round fitness, and he has. But with that has come a level of risk, and always will come a level of risk through injury. And it's ridiculous to think that he won't get injured at any stage for the rest of his career. He's coming towards the back end of his career where he's prioritising test match cricket and doing his utmost to try and play. But as a player, what I think younger cricketers can do is manage their schedule better. So when they're not playing for England, or even before they play for England, it's not a case of, yes, we want to play 365 days a year. You want to target opportunities and rest periods like international cricketers do and like Ben Stokes does, as opposed to by the time the player gets picked for England, he's already played 36 months on the trot, as opposed to the traditional, he plays 6 months, have 6 months off, down in Australia or South Africa playing club cricket, and then come back into your bread and butter, which is county cricket. That's just a ridiculous thing that doesn't happen anymore. So players, managers, agents can also get better at identifying where you want to go and what you want to do, and not ultimately taking every opportunity as and where it comes. So from a playing point of view, I think that's what you can do. I don't think players can control leagues popping up here, there and everywhere. But certainly I think that's what they can do.
I think you do need to discuss the business model as well of cricket in this country. You know, you do need to future-proof the game as well. That's where this tournament, whatever, is very important. There are people talking about Indian businessmen, various IPL franchises getting interested. So all the sort of slightly negative chat and talking about regulating the market or whatever, you've got to realise that investment is important. You've got to look for the future. This game won't look after itself. You just presume if we carry on doing what we've always done, then people will keep coming and watching. So you go around here now and you look at the people in the ground here today, it will be a very young audience, a very family audience that will go on their cricketing journey and started by the 100. And some clubs wouldn't survive if it wasn't for money coming, external money coming into the game. So you can be all sort of high and mighty and say, there's too much of this franchise nonsense. But you've also got to keep an eye on, okay, if we take it away, how are various counties who make a loss year after year after year, how are they going to survive? How do we keep our counties going? Because that's something I want to do.
Yeah, I think everybody would agree with that, because that, in the end, is the way the game has gone as well. But I guess my point was just by almost stepping away and just saying let the market run riot, the game there is being pushed towards a certain direction inexorably all the time. So it's just a matter of administrators are supposed to run the game, kind of get a grip of it and try and sort out a schedule that is more A, spectator friendly, B, player friendly, and just provide a little bit of direction and regulation. I don't think you're saying the market has no influence on the game and you're not looking for any investment in the game, but equally just to step away and let the market completely run riot, in my view, is not helpful. So it's just a matter of finding some balance. Balance is a great word. We always talk about it. It's hard to find, but balance, I think, is essential in most things.
It's okay, I'll go with that, balance. But what about the point Nas made right at the start, quantity versus quality? I mean, basically, we're diluting the product.
Yes,
and how watchable, how watchable will cricket be down the line if you continue to dilute the product? So, it's all right saying investors coming in and people wanting to have a hold on the game and be involved in the game, but if the quality of the game that you're showing is going down, 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 are we going to continue to encourage investors to want to get into a game that's perhaps not going that way, but it's, you know what I mean, it's going the wrong way? So how do we get the balance right?
It depends where you are in the world. People in India and the IPL would not be saying the game's going the wrong way. They will be saying the game is absolutely going in the direction they want it to. And in fact, out of every format, which is the most watchable, which is the most watched, which gets the most attention, it is T20 cricket. There is a market out there. What do people, however much the four of us love Test match cricket, we did a piece at the Test match at Trent Bridge where I was singing the praises and pleading for a survival of Test match cricket. You've also got to bear in mind what people want. And you cannot hide away from the fact that people love T20 cricket. They love white ball cricket. The ICC would not be trying to do World Cups every year or ICC events every year people didn't want it. So, you know, the Indian audience, when India are playing, is going through the roof. An IPL audience is going through the roof. So there is a market for it. Completely agree with Af. What you prioritise, do you prioritise the finances, or do you prioritise history and what you want to continue something that we would all dearly, dearly love to carry on? If it was just T20 cricket, I firmly believe cricket would become a bit dull.